Hi, everybody. I want to introduce my guest today, Dr. Kentaro Iwasaki. And Dr. Iwasaki, he is the son of immigrants from Japan, experienced firsthand the distant extreme education system, attending failing public schools through 8th grade, and then an incredibly resourced private high school on scholarship. These educational experience compel him to provide the highest quality education to students furthest from the center, driven by a deep call to equity and social justice. He was a teacher for 16 years, while department head at a high school in California. Kentaro increased AP math enrollment by 400%, while also increasing passing rates on AP math exams. And in 2011, he was honored to receive the Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching at the White House. Kentaro worked at nonprofit Connect for over 10 years, first as associate director and then director. There, he led statewide math initiative and trained over 2,000 math teachers and leaders. Kentaro has served as co-chair of Harvard's DataWise Network, as a founding member of the Racial Equity Council at the New Schools Venture Fund, and as adjunct faculty at San Francisco State University. Kentaro is national board certified and holds a BA from Stanford, a doctorate in education leadership from Harvard, and a superintendent's license from Massachusetts. He is the founder and president of Concentric Math, an organization that partners with districts to facilitate professional learning focused on culturally responsive math instructional practices that foster equitable engagement and collaboration while examining policies, structures, and systems to create more just outcomes for students furthest from opportunities. Now, most importantly, he is a husband to an amazing special educator and father of 2 remarkable teenagers. And Kentaro, thank you again for having this conversation. Now, to the audience, I want you to let you know that I recently met him when he came to Springfield to lead a workshop on decolonizing and humanizing mathematics, and it was a phenomenal workshop. So I met him and asked him to have these conversations, and so hey, welcome, Kentaro, and so glad to have you here with us today. So let me start with this question for you. You as you're a hard educator. So what makes you to want to become a teacher and an educator?
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity, and really great to be here. So I really loved teaching and loved all aspects of the education system. Um, when I was younger, I just immediately saw how much impact school was having
Mhm.
on me and on my
Mhm.
classmates, and how much potential there was in school.
Mhm.
But yet I also saw ways that it really also destroyed some of my friends' lives, like they really also experienced the ways that it was really harmful to them. So I saw both sides, how much opportunity school could provide, how much it shaped us,
Mhm.
but then also how much harm it was doing to some of my friends and classmates. And so I always saw like the classroom as just a microcosm of the larger society, right? So we bring in all of the hierarchies in society to get played out in the classroom. And when I became a teacher, like that was a lot of the motivation was just saying, if I have a classroom of students and this opportunity to create a classroom environment, a culture in the classroom that I want to create, then maybe it can be one where all of the inequities we see in society, they're not mirrored in the classroom. Like, all the inequities around race and gender and class and socioeconomic status, language, just all of those that exist. Like, what if we could create a classroom
Mhm.
environment where
Right.
that does not define students' experiences and outcomes? And that became something that was really of deep interest to me and also just so fulfilling. So that was a lot of what drew me into teaching was just this adventure um, of creating a different experience and different outcomes for students part- that weren't succeeding, particularly Black and Brown students in our
Mhm.
system. So
Mhm.
that's what drew me to teaching.
Right, right. As yes, you're so right because the classroom mirror the bigger society that we are part of, and these kids, and they're in the formative years, they're experiencing that that reality outside the classroom, and they bring it in the classroom, and it's so important that we create a more just environment to
Yeah.
help them to advance to overcome barriers, and that is so true. That is so true. Now you mentioned that you have been a teacher for a long time. In fact, 16 years. And eventually leading up to your award in 2011, the Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching. Hey, tell us about more about that award and the journey leading up to that.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was very grateful to receive the award, and I think just one thing I want to say from the just in reflection on the whole experience, really my journey to the award was very much a collective journey. Like I think so much, in our country or in U.S. society, we focus so much on the rugged individual, and that's really based in white supremacy culture. So very much, I think my story is not one of an individual, but really based in the collective experience. I really look back at my colleagues. I look back at so many of the math teachers that I learned from various professors. My own family and ancestors, my friends. So anyway, just very much like this learning experience that I feel like I was very lucky to be part of.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like the journey at Mission High School, so I got to teach at Mission High School in San Francisco
Mhm.
Unified, and it was the fifth lowest performing high school in
Mhm.
California, the whole state. Fifth lowest performing. And, I felt very lucky to have landed teaching there. I learned so much. And when I joined, the school, quite honestly, was in really a state of chaos. It had just been reconstituted, which means that the superintendent fired the whole staff essentially and just hired back um, those they wanted in the district. And really, just for me, out of a sense of desperation, like really sheer desperation of how can I teach well enough that my students will be able to really learn math, be engaged in math. And I felt like really like trying to understand this mystery, like what is needed, what do I
Mhm.
need to do to engage them so that they can learn algebra, geometry, all of the high school math necessary for graduation and for college. And really, luckily, we got excellent leaders and administrators, and I also got to hire on an amazing math department. And then there
Mhm.
were so many partnerships: Stanford, San Francisco State University, and any partnership that came my way. I said yes to. I said, we can use all the help, all the partnership we can get. And it just led to really rich and deep collaboration and relationships with many people and organizations that I learned from. So Joe Bowler at Stanford, and then also working with her site for research was a site called Railside High in the Bay Area. So we got to work really closely with them. And anyway, as a result, we detracked our whole math program at Mission High School. So there used to be an honors group, which was primarily all white and Asian students, and then the other non-honors classes were primarily all Black and Latinx students. And when we detract, we made heterogeneous groups. And
Mm,
through that and through changing how we approach teaching and our curriculum and assessments and family community engagement, all these different aspects of the work, our teacher collaboration, um, we were able, in making heterogeneous groups, really able to see an increase in student performance.
mhm,
The number of students who are electing to take this elective fourth year math course, AP Math, advanced math coursework. And, you know, prior when our AP Math class had primarily just been all white and Asian students, now we were seeing it much more representative of the whole population. It wasn't fully representative, but much closer to it with many more Black and Latinx students in AP Math class and succeeding. And so just seeing that impact and the experience students were having and the ways that that really changed so much for them and for us as teachers, our own professional experience and the student experience. I think that's a lot of what was
mhm,
involved
mhm,
in
mhm.
receiving this award and just very much being able to engage in the most rewarding profession, which
Right,
is teaching.
right,
So yeah,
right,
so that was
right.
that was the journey.
Right, you're so right. It is really a collective, experience, a collective journey. Yeah,
Yeah,
it really takes a village, especially the way you just talk about it. It takes so many people work together to bring that, the diversity, inclusiveness,
yeah,
and equity into the classroom so that we can
yeah,
learn together. Students can learn from each other, and wow, this is really, about collaboration and collectively effort. Wow. Wow. I
yes,
mean, this is awesome. This is awesome. And it's so excited that, I can see, you work with such a group of amazing people that work together for bringing education to the audience to help the student learn. Wow, this is really amazing. Now, so and then the next decade after the award, you were working in Connect Ed, which is a national center for college and career. And there and around the same time, within that time frame, around 2015, I think, you also start your doctoral program at Harvard. Tell us more about this part of journey because it
oh yeah,
sounds like a lot of work there. You're
oh yeah,
trying to work and trying to get your doctoral programs, and there's a lot of
yeah,
work.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. No, it was and all very rewarding. So I got to take everything I learned from my experience at Mission High School. And when I joined this nonprofit, I was able to lead two large projects in California and then actually
Wow.
in other states as well. But really, engaging in how do we change teacher practice, and really looking at what's needed to transform our instruction for more equitable student
Mhm,
participation. And
mhm,
um, really looking at both project-based learning, but also best formative assessment strategies around like how do we teach minute to minute, day to
mhm.
day, and make the
Wow.
changes necessary for instruction. So and very like hands-on instruction,
Mhm,
student collaboration, what's needed, but also looking at the adult system, like what are the educators needing so that they can
mhm,
collaborate with each other, just like the ways we want our students to collaborate with each other. So
mhm.
um, that was really rewarding work. I got to work with, I think, about 25 districts within
Wow.
California, also in Detroit,
Wow.
Rochester, New York. So just really wonderful work. And then when I was 45, so this was in 2018, I started my doctoral program at Harvard. And I call it my midlife crisis doctorate, that it was really at this point in my life, 45 years old, and I had just experienced and seen firsthand just so much of the arenas of the education system, but also in my personal life of
Mhm,
just where I felt like I really wanted help and needed really deep change in myself to engage in the education system. But also in places like my own family or in my relationships or ways I was showing up in different places, like my kids' school or church, and really wanting that change. And so I think the doctoral program really provided that. This doctoral program at Harvard in education leadership, I mean, one of my friends described it as, they break you down to build you back up. And I really
Wow.
felt like that was it. Like they really, broke us down in terms of a lot of our assumptions, really looking at our own, what triggers us, our biases,
Wow.
really, really engaging in us. How do we approach conflict? Anyway, so just really deep work, but so that we could engage the system, the education system better. There's a tagline they have, transform self to transform sector. And that was really so much of it. Recently I've been learning about this approach out of MIT, a professor named Otto Schormer, and he has a quote that he talks about success of an intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. And that really
Wow.
struck me of like, if I want to intervene in systems and make changes, then I really need to have that, the change has to happen in me.
Mhm.
And so that was very much a part of it. And again, like going back to the collective experience, I had a cohort of 25 of us, and really my relationships with my 24 colleagues,
Mhm.
they're among my best friends and like family to me. So it really was this collective effort of really sharpening each other, working really closely, pushing each other, supporting each other. So very much a deep transformation, and really allowing and equipping me to re-enter the education system across our country, transformed and changed. So
Mhm.
that was a lot of my experience.
Wow, wow. You're so right because we ourselves as educator we bring in biases from
Yeah,
from our environment, from the way the way we grew up. It
yeah,
makes everything makes the person that we are today. But there are biases, and the world is changing so fast. It's transforming so fast. We
yeah.
really have to look inside us to break the barrier inside so that we can be transformed and make an impact to the
Yeah.
student around us. It is so true. And it
Mhm.
looks like at that point in your life, you are looking for, to scale up your effort.
Mhm.
Because before that you were working in just one high school, even though you work with a lot of people,
Yeah.
and then you go to ED to train, work across, many so many schools district. And looks like it might be around the same time. But I don't know if I'm correct or not. The concept of founding concentric math, that that idea looks like it was also from that time start to emerge from you. Another reason I want to ask you about this is what makes you want to found, concentric math? Now, because not only is interesting, but it's one up to that point you have been working for someone else, okay? But to try to build a better education system. But from there to jump to founding your own organization, that's a totally different story. And I think that experience could help a lot. That entrepreneur way of thinking, that spirit could help a lot of audience. Could you want to? We want you to, can you speak more on that?
Sure. And you used a word, emerging, emerge, and there's a emergent strategy. I got to take a Harvard Business School class, but which had been founded by Clay Christensen, who works in disruptive innovation. He's passed away, but his work,
Mhm,
really lives on. But very much this emergent strategy
mhm,
was very much the how concentric math was formed.
mhm,
Districts approached me and asked if I could support them, or partner with them in the work around math. And when I was with the nonprofit work, I couldn't do this work kind of independently because of conflict of interest. But by launching Concentric Math, you're right, I could then kind of approach the work the way I wanted to.
I
And
see. I
there
see.
were ways where working at a nonprofit, it was wonderful, and there were also ways where it was very constrained or confined
Mhm.
to the deliverables needed for a project or a grant. And so if districts asked for certain work, if it
Gotcha.
wasn't within the deliverables or wasn't, in the scope of work, I had to say I couldn't do it. But now, just being on my own, as a district engages in the work, or as I partner with districts in the work through Concentric Math, I can be much more flexible and pivot as needed. Because I'm not so tied to deliverables, in terms of what we've laid out at the beginning of the year. And you and I both know, as we're teaching, as we're just engaging in life, things come our way and we have to change and adapt. And so being able to do that through my own company, has been really, really invaluable to me, and really, really just deepening partnerships. I think to be able to be
Mhm.
responsive to
Mhm.
what they are encountering. Um, just the political climate even is changing so much around math education, and the response by communities to math. There just needs to be, we need to be agile and we need to be responsive. So that's been a real benefit of starting Concentric Math.
Well, so I want to follow up on that. So if you are being asked what is the vision and approach of concentric math, what would you say?
Yeah, very much. So, I called it Concentric Math, or I named it because very much believing like the transformation again that we want to see in the larger system, it has to start with us, and we have to have a deep transformation. I think ourselves. I Peter Senge, who looks at systems change. At one point, I went to his conference and he said, systems are people. So our education system, it's people. And so if we talk about, let's make a systems change. Well, fundamentally, that's a people change. So what does it look like for us to change ourselves, to change educators in terms of their practice, but also that based in beliefs, biases, all of that, right? So how do we change policies and structures? But it
Mhm.
really needs to start with a deeper like transformation in ourselves. So that's a lot of the vision and the approach, but certainly really looking at tangible practices that teachers can enact in a classroom, the structures in a system, like even looking at how are
Mhm.
students
Mhm.
placed, what are the pathways for students? What are the policies that guide what classes a
Wow.
student takes? All of those things are very much needed, of course, but that really rooted in a change, a deeper change, and then that gets reflected in the system.
Right. Concentric is kind of like geometric language, but there's the
Yes,
center that's us. You're so right. We have to change ourselves, the people involved, so that we can, bring that impact and transformation to people that we are serving. Well, that is so,
yes.
so true. So what is the current focus or the current projects that, you guys are working at
Yeah,
Concentric Math?
so I would say primarily there are three arenas. So one arena is around instructional practice, around particularly an approach called complex instruction out of Stanford, and it really looks at status and power dynamics in a classroom
Oh, okay.
and looking at how to address those, because status and power dynamics, again, around race or language or gender, class, those are what often get in the way of students learning from each other and students engaging. So that's one big arena of focus. Another
Mhm.
one is many districts have approached me around detracking or de-leveling math as a larger approach in the structures and systems. So, you
Mhm.
know, what if they have an honors and a non-honors track, to look at like what does it look like if we didn't have that. So that's been another arena of districts looking at that larger work, both at the policy level, the structures, the
Mhm.
practices, community engagement, all of that. And then the final one that the focus area has been around processes for continuous improvement. Um, so, when I was at Connected, I was really grateful to work with the Carnegie Foundation around their improvement science approach and networked improvement communities. So, really bringing together um, groups of either educators, schools, districts to work on a common area of improvement. and then using data and changing practices, and then really looking at cycles of improvement. So that's been another current focus.
Wow, wow. So it's focusing on the instructions, how we teach them and looking at the structure, like the leveling, the tracking math, but at the same time, the big picture of how we can go on to improve the
Yeah.
all these processes. Wow, that is very comprehensive,
Mhm.
and wow, that will keep you very busy. That will keep you very busy.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
And so, what do you see yourself and concentric math in 5 years' time?
Yeah. So I think one area that I see growth in is, right now primarily I work in California, Massachusetts. I got to work with you all in Illinois, and then it looks like with in Wisconsin. But I think there's a arena of just of growth beyond those states. But I think one vision I really have is connecting districts who are doing this work. That's
Mhm.
been of real interest, or regions, or just a network where we can learn from each other. Um, Really developing a community of practice among educators who are interested in doing this work together, just knowing that the collective would be so much stronger than any individual. Um, there was a sort of a mantra I had with some of my colleagues that where we talked about working ourselves out of a job. So sort of saying that, can we actually build the capacity of the education system so that they no longer need to have contracts with people like me, that they don't, that I actually could, could it be one day that our education system is strong enough that they don't have to work with outside organizations like mine? And maybe this is, too pie in the sky, but can I develop and partner with education systems to build their capacity to lead the work in their own communities? So that's really also a vision I have, and really around for students to have more equitable experiences and outcomes, particularly in math, because you and I both
Mhm.
know how much math can change a student's trajectory,
Right, right,
both about
right.
how they see themselves, but also their careers, their whole life. Um, and specifically, the way I'm doing it and the way I'm trying to approach it is, can our the demographics of our advanced math courses match
Mhm.
the larger demographics in our student population? Because right now it's so inequitable and it's so it's just so tracked. So really trying to address that within the system, I think um, are arenas I want to look at in the next 5 years.
Wow, that is so true. To bring more equity, justice, and diversity in math instructions. This is one of the biggest challenges in our time, in our educational system. And I totally understand you're saying, that if we can build a system that school district doesn't have to work with external consultants, that they will be
Yes.
able to mature. They have the tools that they can go
Hmm.
on to transform, to adapt to the changes,
Yeah.
to help engaging the student. That's the goal. And but in fact, this is somehow, somewhat, similar to, what we want to achieve as an educator at an individual level. We want to give them the tools, the critical thinking, so that they were able to, after they graduate, they were able to have this tool to go on to grow, to be as a learner, to grow, to adapt to changes to the new environment, and go on to excel in whatever they do. And
Yes.
of course, as a math educator, I know I'm biased. Math is so important. But you're right. Let make it more equitable, and because math can help impact the life of the students, the learners, and really crucial for their careers ahead of them. And so for the audience today, I want to, and I think Kentaro, you will go to places to lead workshops just like the one you did at Springfield, right?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay. You guys should invite him to do in person or I guess Zoom remote workshops. He's phenomenal, and because I personally I was so I found that the workshop that you led it was great. It was wonderful. And thank you for coming to Springfield. And thank you today to, have this opportunity to able to have this very crucial conversation with you. And hope that, you will go on to, I know you're going to do a lot of great work, and we hope that maybe next time we can have you invite you back to go on to share with us more the exciting things that you and Concentrics are doing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the chance to meet you and to work with you all, and thank you for this opportunity as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You
And
too.
thank you for the audience that you are with us. And we are going to provide links to Concentric Math so that you can find more about their wonderful work. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day.
You too. Thank you.